morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at Alolan Persian GX. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I showed you a few days ago the Japanese metagame. And in that video, I told you what was seeing play over in Japan, what the big decks, what the most popular decks were. And I gave you a little bit more information about some of them. So I showed you that Eternatus V Max was the second most played deck in Japan in December. It had 14.2% of the metagame. 14.2% of all decks played were Eternatus. And I told you that a lot of them had started being played with Galarian Wheezing, because it's got that ability that turns off abilities, and an attack for a single energy that poisons your opponent's Pokemon and puts 4 damage counters on them between turns, rather than 1. And I did also mention that the reason that's seeing a lot of play at the moment is because of the new Coughing from Shiny Star V, which has got Ascension, which means you can just, for a single energy, use your attack to search and evolve. So if you go second, you just attach a single energy to Coughing and then immediately evolve up. So your opponent gets 1 turn without supporters or attacks, and then their ability locked for the game, which is fun. But I also told you that there were a bunch of other people who chose not to play Galarian Wheezing, who were instead playing Alolan Persian. And Alolan Persian is one that wasn't really on my radar as some ridiculous, awesome powerhouse card. And actually, I think maybe we need to start looking at it in a little bit more detail and taking it a little bit more seriously. Yeah, sure, it's going to be rotating out in September or the very end of August because it wasn't part of the Sword and Shield block. But that still gives us like 8 or 9 months to be playing around with a card which has seen a little bit of play here and there. It's never really got as much love as maybe it should have. But a lot of the time you see these techs being played over in Japan, and then they kind of make their way over here. So Alolan Persian then, I mean, attacking wise, there's nothing terribly special. Free energy 120 is, to put it politely, underwhelming. And then you got your once per game GX attack that does 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon, but it's not affected by weakness resistance or any other effects on that Pokemon. So it goes through any effects of them, but it is also to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which will of course include bench Pokemon. So in that regard, it's quite good, it's quite nice, but it's not a particularly great attack, and I don't think we should pretend it is. But Alolan Persian is very much along the lines of cards like Decidueye and Obstagoon. The attacks aren't great. The damage is underwhelming. But it doesn't really matter because you've got something else in play. Now here it happens to be the ability Smug Face. And Smug Face reads, prevent all effective attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon by your opponent's tag team Pokemon and Ultra Beasts, and by your opponent's Pokemon that have any special energy attached to them. And this is where we're going with this, ladies and gentlemen. We seem to have reached a rather lovely place in the format where this all of a sudden hits a lot of different Pokemon and really kind of hurts them. Now, one thing to point out here, Ultra Beasts really are not terribly relevant in the metagame at the moment. Now, there is one, and that is Blacephalon. Blacephalon decks actually will be hurt by this because it stops all Ultra Beasts, not just GXs, etc. So, on the one hand, you will get Blacephalon here, which is lovely. On the other hand, Blacephalon decks tend to play Cramorant V, Heatran GX. So, I don't think we should be terribly excited about locking Blacephalon out of the game. They have other attackers, they're probably just going to ignore you and keep rolling. But tag teams and Pokemon with special energy attached? This I can absolutely get behind. Now, one of the important things to note here is that we've got some decks like Pikachu and Zekrom that really do go all in on tag team Pokemon. So you've generally got Pikachu and Zekrom, which is your main Pokemon. Full Blitz, free energy, 150, accelerate free energy from your deck. And Tag Bolt does 200, but if you've got an extra free energy attached, you also do 170 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And their backup attacker tends to be Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and they're the two main attackers in the deck. And you are just locking them out the game. But then again, they've started playing Vikavolt. And Vikavolt for 2 energy does 50 damage and blocks item cards, and for free energy does 190. So against the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, what they're going to try and do is just get Vikavolt V out, assuming they play it, which a lot do nowadays, hit for 50 with Paralyzing Bolt, and then get the KO with Super Zap Cannon. And your attacks aren't phenomenal. Having said that, if you're playing something like an Eternatus deck, for instance, and this, like I've said, fits nicely into Eternatus, what you essentially do is, if they bring out Vikavolt, Eternatus comes and KOs, and then you go back to Alolan Persian. Alolan Persian is not great at taking out these counters. The other card we generally tend to see played in Pikachu and Zekrom decks is Boltund V. Now, Boltund V's got Electrify, which accelerates 2 energy from your deck to your bench. And then for 2 energy, you do 10 damage base plus 30 more for each lightning attached to all of your Pokemon. So essentially here, you can build up enough energy, and Boltund can get a one-hit KO. But it still makes the game a lot more awkward. The other big tag team deck around, of course, at the moment is Mewtwo and Mew, which generally tends to copy GX attacks in your discard or on the field, but they're not going to be able to hurt you because of the whole being a tag team Pokemon thing, and that is going to be rather annoying. It's going to make their life a lot more difficult. And again, they might be playing other Pokemon to counter it, but you're taking, and this is even more extreme than Pikachu and Zekrom, because Mewtwo and Mew decks, a general theory here is that they really want to try and have a variety of attacks to use, so they have to try and go into Mewtwo and Mew. And even then, they're trying to copy a bunch of tag team attacks anyway. It's very awkward for them. It is funny that Mewtwo and Mew have started seeing play with Pikachu and Zekrom, and you will block the pair of them. Now, it is important to note, it is only effective attacks done to Alolan Persian, so against something like Arceus and Alga and Palkia, they won't be able to damage you, but they will still be able to use their GX attack to take extra prizes, and they will still be able to use Ultimate Ray to accelerate energy. They just won't be able to damage you in the process. And then, of course, they're going to be able to switch into Zacian V, which is going to be bad news bears for you, because that absolutely will be able to get a nice, easy one-hit KO. And there are other decks against which this isn't going to work. Centiskorch VMAX decks? No. Eternatus VMAX decks? No. There are a bunch that are just going to basically ignore you. But even then, they've got to be careful, because Centiskorch decks often play Heat Fire Energy to give themselves extra HP. Well, if they attach it, you all of a sudden get immunity, which is lovely. Their best bet would then be to have to manually retreat, discarding their special energy and try again. And Eternatus decks are going to be wanting to play Hiding Darkness Energy, which incidentally will give free retreat, so they cannot retreat them off. They can, if they attach a Hiding Darkness Energy too quickly, they can be really stuck. It is important to note at this stage that Ditto Prism Star did rotate out, which is really sad, because you would be able to evolve this as a complete surprise. So if your opponent had, 2 Eternatus VMAX on the field and both had Hiding Darkness Energy, you would be able to essentially bring out an Alolan Persian and neither of them would be able to attack, and that would be hilarious. Lightning decks often use Speed Lightning Energy, and that's one of the things about Alolan Persian. We got so much special energy around at the moment, and so many decks are playing it, that even if you're against a deck that should not care, like Centiskorch, if they carelessly attach a single Heat Fire Energy, all of a sudden you get that immunity right back again. And if we look at the top decks in the format, we've got Pikachu and Zekrom, which uses tag teams and special energy, Eternatus, which uses special energy, ADP, which honestly, they're going to use Zacian with basic energy. That's going to be bad news. Blacephalon, which is an Ultra Beast. Mewtwo and Mew, which is a tag team. I don't think this is the kind of card which is going to auto-win you every matchup, and I don't think Quad Alolan Persian is going to be coming out anytime soon. But I think in a deck like Eternatus, where you really need to go and make an effort to play Darkness Pokemon anyway, this is an amazing tech which can swing a bunch of matchups. That's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.